he is agreeing not necessarily with her methods, but with the outcome.
Right.
Which I think is really key, and I think is an observation that people are not making.
Okay, and he seemed open to the idea that killing Kang could have been the right answer.
Yeah, he just wanted to pause for a little bit.
Yeah, he just needed
just
some...
Loki sucks dick. Loki sucks dick.
Welcome to our new in-between season secondary show, after show. It's after dark. It's 2 o'clock in the morning in Aaron's backyard.
In fact, it is.
In this series, we're going to kind of dive deeper into the themes that we've been talking about across the last 6 episodes in a more relaxed setting.
Indeed.
You can check out this video along with a bunch of subsequent videos that will be coming out over the next couple weeks in between now and season 2 of Loki, I guess.
Yep. We also have content coming up for What If, so make sure that you subscribe and turn on notifications. Also, like, comment, and share this video. It really helps us out a lot.
We also have a Patreon if you'd like to help us out a little bit more. Patreon.com/MonTresserMedia. Access is $1. You get access to this show early, plus everything else in our catalog. And all of that is extended versions of the episodes. Stuff that we have cut out of the episodes that don't make it to YouTube always make it to our Patreon.
And now, let's get into the theme. Mobius has this quote that he tells Loki. He says, "You're born to cause pain and suffering and death, all so that others can achieve their best versions of themselves." This is just so crushing to a character who free will and being on the top of the totem pole is those are the two key things.
Yeah.
And he just knows. I think Mobius knows exactly how to hurt Loki. When I rewatched it, I definitely felt like initially in the early episodes that Mobius had a facade and that it got rid of it towards the last episodes, and that facade isn't really present as much around characters like B-15 or characters like Ravonna at first when she's not being sketch. So I think that he was really genuinely deliberately trying to put Loki down.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Or perhaps it's that a lot of people that are abusers have to hit rock bottom in order to change. Mm-hmm. I can't decide what exactly Loki's rock bottom point is in this. There's a couple of arguments, and I'm curious which one you're going to make.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see if I can list them before I make an argument for which one I believe. Yeah. So in the first episode, his low point is, seeing the rest of the play out of the MCU.
Yeah.
We know where that was heading. So that's definitely a hard low point for him.
Yeah.
His next one probably isn't until the ship is leaving Lamentus and blows up, and there's one in between there?
Thinking about TVA low points. There's a couple of TVA low points, actually.
TVA low points.
So I would say these are before he starts his change.
Okay.
So I would say seeing his mother die / family die / self die. That's one of them.
Yeah.
The whole realizing that Infinity Stones are powerless. Whew, that was a big one.
See, I guess I saw that one as more metally poised towards the audience than back at Loki.
I think it was really important at changing him.
Sure.
It really seemed to break his perspective. Also, I would say that after he betrays the TVA on the mission, there's this big metaphor of him having to go down and do research under this long elevator. And I would almost say that that's kind of his rock bottom point. He kind of, at the very beginning, he falls. And then he has a couple hick fall, and then he falls. And then he starts up a little bit more. I'm totally gesturing off screen.
No, just behind the iPad.
But, I feel like he had... I kind of think that it's that one. That it's after he's betrayed Mobius. He's confirmed that even after he knew, the whole everything, yep, still gonna betray Mobius.
Yeah.
Still gonna try to lie to you and everything like that.
Yeah, I don't know if that was ever really going to change until the things that happened to him later
Yeah.
on. I think that probably was in the cards up to that point.
Yeah.
Because if I remember correctly, a lot of the lead up to the betrayal was him trying to convince Mobius that he was teaching him
Yeah.
how Loki would betray him if
Yep.
he were going to.
Yep, and very narcissistic.
Yeah.
He was really trying to control the conversation and
Yeah.
everything like that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But so that I guess I expected that one.
Yeah.
They're story rock bottoms and not character rock bottoms.
Exactly.
Like the ship blowing up on Lamentus, the story can't continue until something else gets
Yeah.
interjected into it.
Yeah, because I feel like after he betrays Mobius and they go down the elevator and he's doing that work, I feel like from there, he's dedicated to the work. He's trying to be better. He's really interested in the work. Like, you can tell that it's not just, I'm doing this. He seems interested and excited, like a little boy, when he's doing this whole metaphor. Like, that's why I think the salad metaphor is so important, because it shows that he's not just doing this because he has to or because he's trying to get to the timekeepers. There's a part of him that likes it.
Yeah, I would argue that a large portion of him likes it just because he believes he is smart, and as he proves it to himself.
He needs to know that people think he's smart.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. So this is my opportunity to show the greatest power in the universe that I are smart.
Yeah. And like personality wise, from there, I feel like he becomes a better person. Like, there are some squabbles initially with Sylvie, and then they kind of fall into an uneasy partnership that becomes more easy over time.
Yeah.
Because he has learned how to respect her. You see him deferring to her. He's genuinely impressed by someone or something other than himself, which is so critical for his character. It's
Definitely.
huge.
Yeah.
So, I think that's kind of the point that I'm thinking about. Like, what made him as a person realize that he needed to be better. Rock bottom, I think it's that, like betraying Mobius and just seeing how that, like, kind of, like, all of those things in a row just failing.
Right.
Yeah. We see literally everything being stripped away from him. His clothes, his magic, his family, his entire timeline. He finds out about Ragnarok. Literally everything. Everything that was supposed to be important to him, his family, his kingdom, everything gone.
Right.
And you just have this very naked Loki who realizes that he needs to start over better again.
And that links very directly into why he would be so receptive to Sylvie's influence within his life and on himself. Is like, if I literally have nothing else, I at least have another version of what I think is me, you know?
Well, okay, I think I'm going to give some explanation. I can tell by the way some people talk about this that I think younger people and people that have just had lives that are blessedly full of trauma, if you don't agree with this content, I'm really happy for you, because it means, like, your trauma just really wasn't that bad, or you didn't have a lot of trauma, I guess. But when you aren't like the other people around you, when you have a history of trauma, when you have a very specific personality because of that trauma, when you've got, like, PTSD or something like that, which I genuinely believe that both Loki and Sylvie are portrayed as having, like, PTSD in
Absolutely.
this. It is absurdly difficult to form relationships with others. I've been trying to do it for 20 fucking years. I still suck at it. When you finally find somebody who genuinely understands you, who actually has the past and the history and the understanding to just get you, and you can actually form a connection with another human being for the first time, it is intense in a way that no matter how old you are, you're not prepared for. And when you've never had somebody that close to you before, you don't feel lonely because you don't know what you're missing. You're not used to wanting or needing or receiving attention, or maybe you have had attention scorned from you in the past. And when you've never had something and you get it, and that's intense, and you're like, oh, this is cool, and then it's gone, that absence is crushing. You have never felt loneliness before. It's like, you know how toddlers cry about everything because they've never experienced anything before, so every bad thing that happens to them is the worst thing that happened to you?
Yeah.
It's like, loneliness is really hard when you've never encountered it before. And I think Sylvie and Loki are going to be in a really interesting position going into season 2, especially Sylvie, because she has no one. Loki at least knows he can form bonds with Mobius and B-15 and such like that. Sylvie doesn't have that.
Yeah. I'm curious too what those conversations are going to look like. Let's assume that Mobius doesn't know who Loki is in this new timeline. I can see Loki being very keyed up to catch Mobius up, thinking that, he can kind of skip back into being friends with this new version of Mobius again. And I could see that playing out multiple different ways. I could see Mobius asking, like, so what was it about you that I eventually learned to like?
Yeah.
That's a really... the MCU has been pretty good at doing retrospective questions like that. And then if they were to juxtapose that with what Sylvie's going through, having that just negative space left in her life, having to separate away from Loki the way that she did to accomplish her mission, like you're saying, that's going to be this crushing absence that she never knew was there.
Yeah.
And does that drive her to do worse things, or does that drive the redemption arc that we've talked about?
I really need a Sylvie redemption arc. Whoever is directing the next season, give me a Sylvie redemption arc.
Right. I could genuinely see it playing out either way, just because it puts them in very disparately separate places, personality-wise. Like, they were pretty much aligned at the start of this, and then by the end they've kind of split off into two different ways because of their relationship to each other. So that's the important part to keep in place, going on.
And a lot of times in media, these relationships are portrayed pretty poorly, I would say. Like, when you have characters who have toxic traits and they get in a relationship, often media does not address the fact that they had toxic traits or anything like that. I really love that Loki, before he got to kiss Sylvie, like before he got the girl in the end, he had to go through the work. Like, he had to go through that scene with Sif and, like, learning, like, how to apologize to people, how to care about other people's feelings and realize that other people matter. Like, he had to go through all of that growth for it to be real and genuine and healthy. She's not at that place yet, which, like, a lot of people are very heavily like, oh, why hasn't Sylvie, like, why did Sylvie do this? Like, why Sylvie shouldn't have done this. Sylvie, first off, she's very mission focused. Narcissists, even when you love somebody, you are the first priority. Their love is just a vessel for you to get what you want sometimes, whether you want it to be or not. And I'm not trying to say that the kiss isn't genuine, because the kiss is totally genuine.
Yeah.
But I'm saying that you can love somebody and prioritize something else above them. Those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Right.
I feel like a lot of younger audiences believe that if you love somebody, that goes to the top of your list.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this isn't the first time we've seen these kinds of things, even just within the MCU, right? The idea that there can be something more important than the mission, or that the mission could be more important. So I've been seeing this the Sylvie decision as a, like, exact opposite of the Star-Lord decision in Infinity War, where he, is so worried about Gamora. Gamora has been pushed because he's, emotionally immature. He's pushed Gamora up into that number one spot, the only spot that he could see it existing in, and that leads him to, punch Thanos in the face, and as we know, that kind of undoes a lot of what happens.
Yeah.
Or does it? Because apparently Doctor Strange would have seen that in the future where we win, so... I say we as if
Kang
I'm...
was controlling everything, so God, even who he's...
Right.
It's everything got very confusing.
Yeah, exactly. But the two things show you the depth of character that can be achieved across these. To write a character like Sylvie that is so mission-oriented that even finding the most important person in her life, probably ever at that point...
Yeah.
Or definitely at that point...
Since her mother, probably.
Yeah, exactly. Or definitely in her adult life, that's the most important relationship she's built, and still chooses the mission.
Yeah.
That's a character decision. That's not Like, there will be more story, and we'll get to see how the story goes, but that's a character decision affecting the story in the same way that Chris Pratt's character decision to fuck up affects the story. Whether or not the decision's right or wrong isn't up for us to decide. That's up to the character.
Yeah. And it doesn't seem like Loki feels that it's wrong.
Right.
Because afterwards, he's telling Mobius, we did this. We did this.
Right.
It was not, oh, Sylvie did this. She betrayed me. He is agreeing not necessarily with her methods, but with the outcome.
Right.
Which I think is really key, and I think is an observation that people are not making.
Okay, and he seemed open to the idea that killing Kang could have been the right answer.
Yeah, he just wanted to pause for a little bit.
Yeah, he just needed
like,
some...
And, one of the things that I do like about this scene is it is a very... female characters so oftenly end up as, like, vessels for, like, the male characters. Like, she got her mission. There are so many female characters throughout media who just meet a guy and fall in love and forget about everything, and I hate that. I hate this whole, oh, I'm married now, so I guess I'm gonna go pop out some babies and stop superheroing.
Right.
And it's really fascinating to me that every show so far from Marvel on Disney Plus has had a very prominent theme of cycles of abuse.
Yeah.
And I think this is going to continue. It's an observation it's an observation and an analytical bent that I'm going to continue analyzing Marvel through.
Yeah.
Because it's so fascinating to me.
I think their decision to go character focused going forward.
It's so important.
Yeah.
Because when you have stories that are super, super big, like Endgame and everything like that, it's very hard to follow them up. So sometimes you need to follow them up with stories that the characters are the focus. Now, Loki, admittedly, the events are huge.
Right.
Huge. But, WandaVision, not as much. I love
Yet.
the connection. Yeah. But, when it was initially released, it wasn't quite as like that.
Sure. Yeah, exactly. We've gotten more context behind it. And I think that's why I'm so excited for Kang as the villain, because if you're doing more character focused, and we've seen his ability to separate two characters that got very linked over 6 episodes. Yep. Thanos didn't do that. Thanos he was the insurmountable odds. He was the force of nature.
Force.
Yeah, exactly. Everything can be solved by punching. And Kang, so far, and that's why I get so giddy when I think about that last episode, it's just like, Kang mentally and psychologically undressed both of them.
It's so good.
To the point where he knew how to respond to each one of them as they had their separate responses. When he snaps at Sylvie and he calls her a hypocrite. Like
acting in that scene.
Yeah.
All 3 of them were just... If they don't all win awards, I am going to be big mad.
Yeah, absolutely.
Big mad.
But he's being set up to be this character that's going to weaponize the trauma of our characters as they're starting out in Phase 4 and going forward. Yeah. And that's infinitely more scary, I think, for me for 2 reasons. The first being, I don't know how audiences are going to react to that. If they're already mad at Sylvie and Star-Lord for their decisions, if they're going to get the idea of character first storytelling.
Yeah.
And then I'm also scared for how hard they're going to hurt me by doing this to me.
Yeah, and the Kang character is fascinating. Like, there's just such a huge element of control in this.
Yeah.
And would you say narcissists enjoy control, Seth?
Yeah, it's almost like a marked part of the personality disorder.
Yeah. It would be really prominent. When you control people, there are 2 things that happen. First off, you become very sensitive to when other people are doing controlling, manipulative, gaslighting things. I used to be very controlling in the past. I recognize very quickly when other people are controlling me. There are just people that I get bad vibes, and my friends don't get it, and eventually they understand, and I'm like, yep, there was just signs, all those little signs. Mm-hmm. So that's one of them. The other thing is, when you control people, there is this little part of your brain that's aware the things that are happening around you aren't real because you're making those people do it. Like, I used to really like trying to like get people to like me. Like, I really liked trying to get like people to date me who didn't want to date me. Like, I didn't do anything gross, but like just I would try and like change my personality or just be whoever they wanted me to be to try and like get that person. And then as soon as I got them, I would be like, wait, they don't actually like me. This isn't actually me. I'm just an elaborate facade that I developed to try and seduce this person. This relationship isn't real.
Yeah.
I think that scene between, I got so excited about Loki and Sylvie and the whole like prince or a princess thing that it didn't even occur to me that Sylvie hits on that so hard.
Yeah.
You know, she hits on the fact that like nothing was real. I really think that theme is established very early on because you have the literal attempt for control, her attempt to brainwash him or enchant him. She tries to enchant Loki. Like if she would have gotten Loki enchanted, that wouldn't have been a real relationship. So that's not something that would have worked out for her. It needed to be, they needed to establish she cannot enchant him. They needed to put that in the text because otherwise the audience would speculate. And the funny thing is even though they put it clearly in the text, the audience is still speculating.
Right.
It's really interesting seeing people that have not analyzed film before starting to analyze film, and it's great. I love seeing people analyzing film and taking it on and making that journey.
Yeah.
What I don't love is the tweets about how Marvel is basically just setting up all of these unhealthy relationships and it's bad examples for people. And I'm like, no, it's really showing you that hurt people do bad things and they hurt other people.
Yeah.
And they really can't have good things until they stop hurting other people. Like, it's totally about people needing to become good, you know?
Yeah.
Or needing to have that redemption before they can be in that relationship. Like, that, I think, is Loki's whole storyline.
Yeah. Well, and that probably stems from, like, the over-romanticization of romance.
Yeah.
Especially in, like, Western cultures of, like, if you're going to show a relationship, you have to show the perfect one because that's what people are going to want when they watch it. And it's like, well, in reality, no two perfect people are meeting each other, and part of the journey is figuring out the things that are really good about them and then the things that they have issues with and things how you might affect them, and like there's a lot more nuance to it. So I think I would prefer media that shows me imperfect people learning about each other and learning how to communicate, like not just like what to say but how to say it and how to act on it and things like that. I don't want anybody to spoon feed me just like a perfect thing.
No. And one of the pitfalls that I fell into as a child was that I believed that if you got into like a big argument with your significant other, it was over. And like, I think it's important to show that, you know, so long as people do go through that and change and are valid, like respectful, good people to you, that it is worth it.
Yeah.
I think it also has shown that you can recognize when your partner has different goals than you. Like, if I married somebody and they wanted to have kids and I didn't want to have kids, you know, me breaking up with them would not be a betrayal. That would be a trueness to my own character. Sylvie choosing to continue on her mission is not a betrayal. It's a continuation of her character. It's true to her character. And Loki knows that. You can tell that he knows that by how he interacts with Mobius at the end.
Yeah, definitely. He's seeing this thing that happened is like not the end for them.
Yeah.
Like it didn't play out the way he wanted it to. He definitely would have wanted more time to sit and think and ask questions, and and that's part of what I'm saying. Like they're gonna have to learn how to communicate that in the future. Of like, hey, so next time we're in a really important situation, and I say, hey, can we take a minute? And there's no pressing danger. Maybe we take a minute.
He wasn't actually doing anything, Sylvie. Like, we could have taken 5. Like, at least 5. We're, kind of fairly immortal. Not, like, super immortal, but, like, you know, long-lived. We got time for this. I ain't going anywhere. Like, the threshold has been passed. We have free will, which, oh, my God, the fact that the kiss happened after the threshold.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't kiss before the threshold.
Yep.
God, that was so critical.
And they almost could have, like, at least twice.
Yeah, Mobius almost kissed.
Right.
In the elevator. Oh my God, that was cute. It was so cute.
So you were saying that there's 2 aspects to controlling people and the way they recognize the world. What's the second one?
Yes. So when you have been a person who controls others for a long time, you are just kind of always in that mindset. Even if you see other people interacting, you just may think about like how, oh, well, man, if he would have said this, he probably could have gotten her to agree to go out with him. Because like clearly the only reason she said no was that like you can kind of get like, or maybe if he negged her a little bit, or maybe he pushed her a little bit harder, like you can kind of think of scenarios where someone could manipulate the situation to make it come out to their better. Because of that, because there's that hyper vigilant part of your brain. Your brain is hyper vigilant because normally you've been abused. So you've got this hyper vigilance that's constantly aware of everything that's around of you, and you are primed to know how manipulation works. It's just everywhere. And you see when Loki gets to the TVA, he's just calling out the manipulation left, right, back, and forth.
Yeah.
And like the reason that he knows that, and the reason that like Mobius can call him out, and the reason that like Ravonna can call Mobius out, like yes, part of things are time loops and just like knowing expectations, but part of it is we're abusers too. You know?
Yeah, especially because at least a few of them know that pruning things drops it off into the void to be consumed and destroyed forever. So that aspect to me is, I think, what made
fucked up.
Yeah, exactly. It made me a little more leery of like, yeah, but if you knew this already, then you had to have at least had inklings that the free will was lacking here.
Yep.
And I truly believe that they all, even Kang to some degree, thought they were doing the right thing.
Yeah.
I don't. It's hard to pin down a villain in this series. Because Kang.
I love that though.
Yeah.
Everybody is shades of gray, first off, which I love. I love the moral ambiguity of everybody, but I love that everybody is still redeemable for the most part.
Right. The man in the tower, just because he spelled things out to happen this way, doesn't specifically make his plot evil. It definitely makes him very controlling to have taken away free will from everyone, but even that didn't seem like it was coming from a negative space.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. One of the things that like Loki says, like very first episode, before we really know anything about anybody, the idea that your little club decides the fate of trillions of people throughout all existence at the behest of 3 space lizards, it's funny, it's absurd.
Yeah.
He just pegs it, like right out the back. Like, he knows that there is something intrinsically wrong and that he needs to overthrow it, and he just goes into that mode because he recognizes that in himself.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And, you know, it's things that he's done before.
Is it also kind of telling that Kang's getting set up as this villain for the next phase, and he's almost like a dark mirror of Tony Stark, who is also a control freak, who also made plans to make literally every change in his suit is like a countermeasure to the last thing that fucked him up. Now we're getting Kang, which is basically evil Tony Stark from the future.
Really, Tony Stark is just Icarus. The flight to the sun is inevitable.
Right. I find that very interesting that, you know, a series that is setting up who is to become the big bad overall is setting up someone, used Loki as our magnifying glass into that, of someone who tries to control things, tries to live out his own fate, and pit him against the guy that decides fate. That it's almost too obvious to be like, yeah, so this series is definitely just about control. Right?
It's about control. It's about abuse. And like, I just want to stress, like, we're not trying to say that the characters like have a disorder, or that, like, you know, I think the characters are metaphors that are being used to display behaviors by people that may have narcissistic personality disorder. I want to clear that up because I know that a lot of people with narcissistic personality and antisocial personality disorder get shit on. Being in the personality disorder community, it kind of sucks. You get shit on a lot.
Especially people that are aware of it and how it affects people, and are actively working against that.
I just when you try to be better, it really sucks when you fuck up.
Yeah, very true.
So in addition to Sylvie, there's another female character that Loki has to, you know, forge a better relationship with.
Yeah, the scenes in the time loop with Sif are like very informative to him as to A, why he would need to apologize to anyone ever, and then B, learning how to genuinely apologize, which for a narcissist
Is hard.
Ooh, yeah.
Yeah, but also I kind of wish I had a time loop that I can just put all of my narcissist, past buddies in to just be like, hey, learn how to be nice, learn how to sell an apology.
The fact that the idea of Groundhog Daying somebody as this will help you get better, I promise, buddy.
Yeah, just a little bit in the time loop. You'll learn a little bit of empathy.
Right.
I do have to admit, it does it's like, God, that's fucking traumatic. Like, that's another form of trauma. It reminds me of conversion therapy level.
Yeah.
Maybe not, I understand it, maybe not the way that I would go through it. For plot purposes, it would work. In real life, don't do that.
Right.
I think that scene is really impactful to me because when you reform from being an abuser, you have to confront all of the people that you hurt. And when those are people that are friends or family members or people that are close to you in your life, people that you can't run away from, because most abusers, when things don't go their way, they just run away and start over. You have to make amends with those people. That whole scene with Sif is about making amends with people.
Yeah.
They don't have to forgive you. There is this huge myth. If you take nothing else from this video, young folks, closure does not involve other people. It involves you. Sif really didn't accept Loki's apology. Not really. That closure had to come from him realizing that he did wrong, that he had learned the lesson from it, and that relationship had been compromised and might recover over time, but might not. And he had to be able to pick himself up and forge himself on, even though he didn't get closure from her from that scenario.
Yeah. And the fact that immediately after that, that's paid off by him getting the same treatment from Mobius. So he get to experience it from Sif's side. Yeah. That was just really, really cleanly done to be
so good.
He learned the lesson and he took away what he needed from it. And then the reward was now you get to be on the other side of it and understand why it's important that you do that.
Yeah, exactly. Loki's final apology to Sif, he says, I crave attention because I'm a narcissist, and I suppose it's because I'm scared of being alone. Hi, I spent 37 years of my life pushing away basically everybody because I knew that the relationships I would probably break them at some point, and I didn't want people to leave me. I knew I would end up alone, but I was also simultaneously terrified to end up alone. I very deeply relate to what Loki and Sylvie kind of feel in that vibe.
Sure.
And then Sif's, you are alone and you always will be, that hit really hard.
Yeah.
And that hit so hard that it kind of broke me I internalized that deeply for a couple of episodes. And something happened in episode 6 that made me remember why representation in film truly matters. I just have spent my entire life believing that because I was a really shitty person for a while, that I do not deserve good things to happen to me. And it's hard, even through therapy, because I have aphantasia. I don't have a mind's eye. I can't make pictures in my eyes. I can't just close my eyes and envision things. So I can't imagine myself, fixing things. And that is a result of PTSD. When I was a kid, I used to be able to do that, but my mind's eye just protects myself from the bad things that happen for me now. And representation matters because I cannot imagine a future in which somebody like me gets a happy ending, has a partner that understands them and gets them and reciprocates and actually knows them. That's not an experience that even today in my life I have had. And being able to see that on film cemented it in my mind as a possibility in my life that did not exist in a previous way. And, it's hard because people consistently tell you that you do not deserve good things. Mobius told Loki over and over again, you do not deserve good things, pretty much. You're going to be a failure. You're going to fuck up. That's going to be for everybody else's benefit. That is your whole thing. And because of that especially, I think it really sets off their relationship on a hard point.
Yeah.
And you've got two basically narcissists coming together. And when Mobius finally softens to Loki and realizes, shit, I need to actually, be nice to him. And, all right, or maybe he realizes that he actually cares. He starts caring.
Yeah.
He says, I want to know why you do what you do. And Owen Wilson in that moment seems very genuine. I rewatched that scene a bunch of times because I was trying to figure out if he was manipulating Loki or not. And I feel like he was telling the truth. And Loki says liar. Because when you're a liar and you lie a lot, you tend to think that everybody else is lying all the time. It's a word for that.
Yeah, projection.
And not just lying. Projection can be anything.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, on the topic of projection, there's a lot of that throughout this series. I think classic Loki projects some. We see Sylvie in episode 5 go deep into, like, how do I know I can trust you?
Yeah.
Which is really her asking herself that question.
It's really her being like, how do I know that you can trust that you're not going to do something that's going to come between me and the mission? Because if you do that, I'm going to have to fucking betray you. That is what she meant. I promise you.
Yeah.
I made a TikTok in that moment where I'm like, basically, when she, I don't know, there was some moment with her, I don't know, basically her betraying Loki. I made a TikTok and I'm like, wow, there's a lot of my exes that are going to be like, that reminds me of Aaron.
I'm also curious as to, like, if you went back through with, like, a fine-tooth comb and could find where maybe Renslayer and Mobius project back and forth at each other within their conversations, or even Mobius onto Loki.
Yeah.
You know, that's an easy punching bag if you're dealing with any of your own personal issues to throw them back onto Loki.
It's funny you say that because I would argue that Mobius saying that, like, Loki's a failure and he's not going to achieve anything and stuff like that, that's projection.
Yeah,
because
I could totally see that.
You can definitely see that Ravonna has him whipped. Like, he's sucking up hard and she keeps him very much in line and she steals all the credit and she gives him the minimal.
Yeah.
So I really think that a lot of that is projection.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know if I said this or if this got cut or if this was Patreon content that I said previously, but in case it was none of the above, I've always found it hilarious that Loki's powers projection, that's his superpower, as well as one of his character flaws.
This is so good. Like, the metaphor is so...
That's just, it's excellent writing. Like, it's what makes a really compelling character.
The people that attack the writers on Twitter, I want to beam them. This is one of the most, like, so many shows like this that rely on, you don't know what's going to happen next, do not hold up well on rewatch. This holds up flawlessly. It gets significantly better. You notice things each time you watch it that are different that you didn't notice before. It's genuinely brilliantly done. It is extraordinarily well written. I will respect if it's not your tastes, if the characters make you feel a certain way, especially because, like, the whole narcissism, the whole abuser relationship thing can be hard for some people to understand. But you can't say that this is low effort, that it is not well written, that it that the characters didn't make sense, that the romance felt forced or anything like that. To circle back on things, projection with Mobius, he said to Loki, I believed that insecure need for validation would motivate you to find the killer, not because you care about the mission or being a hero, but because you know this variant is better than you. And I would say that was projection. Also, it's false.
Interesting. I can definitely see that being projection.
All of them have an insecure need for validation.
Right.
And one of the things that they stress, like Ravonna and Mobius stress that they're all, like, stubborn and insubordinate and stuff like that. One of the big themes is how all of the main characters are very similar.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry.
We highlighted that in I think the first or second episode. Yeah. Like they form, maybe it was the third episode. They form this quad of similar personalities where, like, it's almost like the narcissism Foursquare, where, you know, you could drag it up one way and it's Loki, and the other way it's Renslayer, and down and opposite is Mobius, and back over here you're on the Loki side, and you could lay that out multiple different ways. I mean, you could even probably Myers-Briggs this group into, you know, four very similar types.
True.
And that's on purpose. Like, a series that is about Loki and multiple Lokis you have to pit him against people that are similar to him, and then opposite in very specific other ways as well.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that, like, Mobius's motivation is that the variant is better than you.
Yeah.
I genuinely think that on some level, Loki's do want to be a hero. I'm almost wondering, the whole thing where Sylvie points out, like, oh, you know, they didn't tell you were adopted. I wonder if that whole, like, Loki feeling betrayed over not knowing that he was adopted or something like that, if that was one of his, like, defining character traits that made him decide to be a bad guy instead of a good guy. And Sylvie, it wasn't just the gender. I think it was because she was assigned female at birth, and then she was not lied to and betrayed about her adoption. She knew her background. She had a good childhood where she was accepted and brought into the family. So I don't think that it was just that she was born the goddess of mischief. I think she was assigned female at birth because she's a gender fluid character. I think from there, she wasn't lied to about her adoption. She didn't have that early betrayal. She had a good childhood. And that made her want to become a hero because her brother, Thor, was very into that hero shit too. As a female, she had the ability to potentially join the Valkyries, and when she got it in her head that she was going to be a Valkyrie, that was her Nexus event.
Yeah.
I think deep down inside, Lokis do want to be a hero. I think that is part of their glorious purpose.
Yeah.
And I think that it is clearly expressed because the very first scene where you really get, like, Sylvie in action is at the Renaissance Festival. And what song do they play while Sylvie is killing the TVA agents?
Oh, man. Oh, I know this. It's a pop song I love.
I need a hero.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not Bonnie Tyler. I was trying not to sing.
I totally agree. Like, that song being played there very much so is like an explanation of what her character would have been had the TVA not intercepted.
I would argue that it is foreshadowing that she is the hero that frees us from Kang's control.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say that she really is a hero. She's just not had her redemption arc. And I think it's good that they've kind of established the whole, you can be a hero and still be a shitty person.
Right.
I love that.
I think to your point in the opposite direction with Loki, the reason that Loki didn't actively seek to become a hero when he was young, and the reason that, like, him finding out his heritage, because this is all part of Thor, right? The first Thor movie. They kind of make it the story beat there that he has always been second to Thor, and Thor's always gone off to do the heroing stuff, and he does that with Thor. Like, he is in with the three and Sif and Thor, and he's part of that party that goes to Jotunheim to attack the Frost King. So he's always been involved in that, but it was the betrayal of finding out he didn't have any real lineage, and then Thor being so opposite to him that he was like, you know what? If I'm going to be the hero, I'll be the hero to my own story, and I'm going to take things over. And so that was his
origin story.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, the reason that he does the way that he does, and why he would end up being so different from Sylvie if you change those couple. Like, she knew she was adopted, and she could have gotten into the Valkyries and differentiated herself from Thor in that way.
Or been more like Thor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so very much for joining us for this special limited show, Loki After Dark. We will be back for season 2 of Loki with Loki Sucks Dick, and also we have content for What If coming up available soon, so be sure to subscribe and turn on notifications.
If you could also drop us a like and share this video out, that would be very helpful. And beyond that, for $1, you could help us out every single month on Patreon. That's patreon.com/Montrester Media. It gives you access to our entire library of extended episodes, stuff that you've never seen here on YouTube, as well as our Discord link, which you can probably find in the description for this as well. We have a hop in Discord that we'd love to see you there. We'd love to talk to you there. I think my favorite channel in the Discord is Dick Butt, our meme channel, where you can just drop most memes.
Yeah.
Non-offensive memes.
Yeah. Also, the channel for Loki Sucks Dick is very popular right now because I post a lot of alligator Loki stuff there.
Yes, you do.
Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. It really helps us out a ton. Thank you so very much for watching, and have a lovely day.